So, welcome back. I hope you have had a great day. So, today we get to talk about a new plant family or a plant group. And on the image that you see, you have a photograph of a very old oak, over 800 years of age. It's the valley oak that we have here in Southern California. But that's not the family we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the surrounding plants, which are going to be the citrus, the orange, the lemons, the limes, which are going to be the main and the most important members of this family. And they're very important in human history. We have depended on them for many, many things, including having some of the fruits that are going to be edible. So, along with the oaks, these are very old citrus trees that were planted in what is known as a historical site right now, one of the earliest orchard that was planted here in Southern California. So we get to talk about the rue family or the citrus family, Rutaceae, and we can see from the map that it is distributed throughout the world. Just a little bit shy of some of the more temperate areas or the extremely temperate areas. And we will find a few very unusual members from Australia. So, whatever ancestor happened to go to Australia, diversified into very unique plants and very interesting. So we have a family of dicots, plant category, about 161 genera and 1800 plus species. We will concentrate on the citrus, which is going to be the biggest plant fam group, and a few of the more obscure that you may find for using in the landscape. And so the type specimen, as the name is for the family, is going to be Rue or the genus Ruta. And that's going to be the plant that you see here, Ruta graveolens, that has a very long history with human usage. So humans have used it to flavor some of the early foods, such as blood sausages, and it's also used for medicinal values. There are many, many medicinal uses, including to alleviate a toothache. So you can take a bunch of leaves, just kind of bite them where there's the tooth that may be hurting, and it nullifies or numbs the pain. And also for traditionally has been used for abortion or aborting. So a tea made out of the leaves can induce a very early child birth, and or it will abort some of the or can cause abortion in some of the early stages. So be careful. It is a very pungent, very strong smelling plant, but it does gives us a basic plant to work with. So here are the leaves. And we also have the flowers that are going to be the typical for members of this family. So we'll use this to kind of go over the different parts. And we also have the fruits. The fruits on members of this family are going to have oil glands, and you can see them throughout the immature fruit here. So that is going to be one of the characteristics. There's going to be oils found within the fruits, and there's going to be special glands as well. And that's also going to give us that fragrance or the strong smell with some of the rue or the more pleasant smell with some of the citrus plants. And so if we break down the flower, this is what we're going to find. We're going to find five petals, very simplistic, nothing, no very uh, gigantic or huge modifications on many of the flowers here. We'll see that later on. But for our purpose here, it's just going to be five petals, and then we're going to have the anthers that are going to be also surrounding or kind of alternating with the petals. And then we're going to have the ovaries that is going to be separated into segments or compartments, and then we're going to have one stigma right in the center. And so that's where the pollen will be deposited, and that's where you're going to have uh, the production of the fruit and eventually the seeds. So very simplistic form or very simplistic flower. We also need to point out that many members, including the citrus, they will go through a very drastic change when they are immature or young or juvenile versus the adult that would have the flowers and or the fruit as well. And so during the juvenile stage, the growth of the plant is going to be characterized by being extremely robust, as in many plants, but it's also going to have very sharp spines and or defense mechanism prickles that are going to be present. That is going to carry on until the plant becomes an adult. And it's a defense mechanism as the plant is getting older and is growing. It will require some of the spines to protect the flowers and the fruit. And when it becomes an adult, most likely the plant is going to be tall enough now to fend off or be safe from any herbivore animals or another predator that might be harming the fruits. So be careful because very sharp spines, very sharp prickles are going to be very common, especially during the juvenile stage of members of this family. And so, as mentioned before, we have the genus Citrus that has its origin in Asia. So, most of the lemons, lime, citrus had its origin in Asia, and through extreme selections, we have had some of our wonderful oranges and some of the wonderful lemons that we can still use for a lot of our cooking or just to drink some good orange juice. But the citrus genus is going to be one of the most important and also one of the biggest one. And here's the flowers. The flowers will follow very similar what we saw with the rue. Just a little bit of a difference would be the stamens that are going to be partially fused. And if we look at then the beginning of the fruit, here we have the remnants of the stigma and the style, and now we have the ovary that is beginning to mature. And eventually, the mature ovary will become that citrus fruit that you are going to purchase at the store. On one side is going to have the remnants of the stigma and the style. On the other side is going to have the peduncle or what was holding the plant, the flower to the plant. And so here are the flowers with the specific labels to show you the different parts. And so here's the petals, as we said before. Here's the anthers and the filaments. And you can even see that on some of the petals on the underside, there are going to be those glands that I mentioned before, and those glands will follow into the fruit. So for the citrus, they have a very their own name for the fruit. It's called a Hesperidium, and it's nothing more or is defined as a true berry that has a leathery rind with oil glands. And the oil glands can ignite. So I know there has been some videos of people squeezing the rind of a orange onto a fire or a lighter, and it will send out a flame because oils will burn. And so here we have the little dots, which are going to be the oil reserves, and or also the oils will fly out when you're happen to be peeling an orange or a citrus. You'll see a cloud of those oils that will come out. So the Hesperidium, that is going to be the name for the citrus fruit or an orange, and that would be the correct botanical name. So only found within citrus or the genus citrus. So leathery rind with oil glands and in the pith, and that's going to be what describes it. And when we cut this fruit in half, then we can see the different compartments or the different areas where you might now be housing some of the seeds. So this would also be the different carpels that each and all of them will share one single stigma. But as pollination and fertilization took place, now you have the development and the maturation of some of the seeds. And so here we see a very nice division between the different compartments or the different carpels. And so here's the label, and including a side view of the oil glands here, and just the rind or the outside of that fruit. And one of the earliest citrus in cultivation is going to be Citrus medica, and that is going to be commonly known as citron. And it is a very important plant, especially in Jewish tradition. So there is a special holiday where they look for the biggest and the most beautiful citron that is out there. Many of them are going to be worth a lot of dollars. So I believe the one that is in the image was about $250 for a single fruit. There are some rules. The citrus tree cannot be grafted, so it has to have come from a tree that was grown from seeds, because that would be the natural way. And so after this holiday, when this was brought to me, this is from a former student. The student then grew the seeds, and the following year, I was sent this photograph. Sorry, not the following years. In a few years, I will send a photograph of the byproduct or the offsprings from that estrog or citron. Estrog is the actual Jewish name. And so these are way bigger. These are probably worth a lot more. And these are the fruits that came from the trees, from a tree that grew from the seeds of that very expensive lemon. So estrog or Citrus medica, and here's an even bigger one that was grown by the sternal mine. And then we have a mutation, a grotesque growth on an estrog or a citron, and that is going to be referred to as or sold as Buddha finger citron. So it's nothing more than the different compartments, kind of each surrounded with its own rind. And so it is now associated with Buddha, and it became a very popular plant. The citron is very sour. So, yes, people have used the juice, and yes, it has helped them a lot. But in most cases, it is going to be the rind that gets either made into candy, or when you add a lot of sugars, you can then make it into jams, jellies, and or some kind of candy. So you can eat the rind as well as the juice, which is going to be very sour. And so here we have that Buddha finger. Here it is when it's already ripening and maturing on the tree. And as it is being sold in different farmers market on different areas throughout the city, it is nothing unusual to see. It's just kind of weird, but it's nothing more than a mutated and ugly, a grotesque lemon, and it's just being sold as something weird and different. And here's the and then we have citrus limon, which is going to be that lemon, the lemon that is going to be very popular. There's different varieties, the Meyer lemon, there's the improved Meyer, as well as other ones that may have grown from seed that people may be growing. That could be way better than any of the ones that we find in some of the commercial or being grown for commercial purposes. So here's the fruit, and so here's the Meyer lemon as is in the package. And obviously, lemons have had a very extensive use by humans, including some of the lemonades. I'm sure you all have had lemonades. Hopefully, none of you are allergic to citrus, because you're going to be missing something great. So we have lemonades and seafood. Yes, seafood is lemon is a very important component when you are going to be eating some of your seafood, including uh, your mussels and octopus, and also your shells, your snails. And then there's going to be several hybrids. So citrus, yes, can be hybridized. And so here we have a hybrid between a lemon and a estrog or the citron, and that's going to be the ponderosa lemon that can grow as big as a grapefruit. So there I am holding one for scale, and here's the fruit. And inside, there's not a lot of juice. There's not a lot of rind. Sorry, there is a lot of rind. There's not a lot of pulp, and so it's grown us a weird, interesting curiosity. Yes, you can candy the rind if you wanted to. And here's where we have some of the citrus that are available for sale at any garden center. And well, I want to add that a very old propagation methods developed over 4,000 years in China, known as grafting, is what is allowing us to continually grow the different varieties or the different selections of the citrus fruits that we have out there. And so the product that you see on the screen are all products of grafting. All citrus trees that you might find or purchase from the store will be grafted at some point or another. And here's just some citrus as you may find them in some of the local supermarkets or supermarkets as you go around, including our citrus aurantifolia, which is going to be known as the lime or lime. That would be the green one, sometimes known as the key lime or just lime by many people. And there is a preference by some folks. Some people like the lemon juice more than the lime juice. Some people like the lime juice better than the lemon. It's just a matter of preference. They're all sour and they're all citrusy. Here's the close-up of the photograph of the fruit. And here's the inside showing you some of the rinds. Yes, these are all selections for not having seeds because if you ever get some kind of wild citrus, it will have so many seeds that most people will complain about it. And so most of these are going to be just selections that are going to be seedless or seedless variety. And then we have Citrus limonotoides, which is going to be what is known as sweet lemon. Yes, this is not sour like some of the others, or sweet lime, sorry. So this is kind of sweet, so it has lost a lot of the sourness, and now you can just eat it fresh and open it. It's not sweet, it's semi-sweet. It is very watery. I've had it when it was has ripened on the tree, and it's quite palatable, and especially if you suffer from sensitive teeth and eating a regular lime or regular lemon will hurt your teeth. This one has very little to no acid, so you can just eat it fresh. So sweet lime, or sometimes known as sweet lemon. And then the most important one is going to be Citrus sinensis from China. This is going to be the orange. The orange that will obviously bring us the orange juice. So there's the fruit. And here's just the many brands of orange juice that you may come across. Here's some marmalade or honey. So yes, when the citrus trees are in bloom, they will move honey or bee hives into the orchards. The bees will go out there, pollinate the flowers, increasing the yields of the citrus. But in the process, they will also take the nectar, which will give a very good quality honey. And so during the season for citrus, bee farmers will move them around or rent them out so that they can pollinate and in the process get some good honey. Or the marmalade that you can put on toast or on anything else that you might want, or just for flavoring for cookies and cupcakes. Citrus flavoring is going to be very, very important. And so here we have what is known as the Valencia orange that is going to have very nice rind. And inside we have the compartment with the seeds. The Valencia orange is going to be one of the more popular, followed by the navel, which is going to be seedless. And then we have here the grapefruit, which is going to be known as Citrus paradisi. Many of them coming from Florida or in South America. So here is the orange. And here we have the navel that is another mutation. So it would have been a twin fruit. However, one of the twins got eaten or absorbed by the other. And so the little nipple that you see on one side of the fruit, that would have been the other orange or the twin that is still fused with the original one. And because of the mutation, then there's no production of seeds. And then on the left, we have the other very popular, which is known as blood red orange. So very red inside, and it's very sour, or not really sour, but it's not as good or as sweet or as flavorful as either the Valencia or the navel. But many people grow it and like that fruit. So here you can still see the very nice coloration. And here, when you have cut it in half, you can see some of the arrows or the pulp that has a very high content of anthocyanin, which is that purplish reddish pigment that you see. That is good for your health, and that's one of the reasons why people eat it, to just get more good antioxidants. And then we have the mother of all the citrus, which is Citrus maxima. So this would be that pomelo or grapefruit. Grapefruit is the name in Asia. In America, we call them grape. Sorry, pomelo is the name in Asia. In America, we call them grapefruits. So if you see the name, sometimes even the ruby red grapefruit is going to be known as called pomelo, depending on which market you go to. So Citrus maxima is definitely the pomelo. So this is going to be one of the largest grapefruits that you're going to find out there. So here it is when it's happy on the tree, and here's where you would find how you may find it for sale at some of the stores. And just here's holding one for scale. And the inside for this is the ruby red or the red pink grapefruit that was developed in Florida or selected in Florida. And so here is Citrus paradisi. So this is going to be more of what you're going to find in the American market. So this one is the favorite. And here's just for scale. And that's how you're going to be able to serve them. And yes, they can be quite sweet, some of them, but most of them are going to be very tart. And there's also going to be a very bad aftertaste that will come from some of the rind. So that's why people need to remove as much of the rind and or the area surrounding it, just to avoid that bad taste in your mouth. Yes, they can be canned, they can be made into juice and be made into a bunch of other things. So here's some more uh, of the grapefruits. And so here's just for scale, we have the regular pomelo, the species, and then different types of grapefruits or different selections on top of an orange, so you can see the size of the scale. And this is going to be Moro Mellow Glow, just another selection of grapefruit that is going to be kind of greenish white inside, and it's going to be sweeter. So luckily they have selected more varieties for being sweet and less of that taste, that aftertaste. So here's the inside. So this is sweeter. And here's just two, the pomelo in the background and a different grapefruit in front for scale. And then there's what they refer to as the dragon egg. So during certain specific time of the years, there might be some holidays where some of this might be available. So it's just an extended, it kind of looks like a gore, but this form and shape is desirable for offering it during some kind of prayer or rituals. And so it's available. It's not that good, but it has a different purpose. And then we have the citrus reticulata, which are going to be the mandarins. The word tangerine, unfortunately, is another American word that is used. Unfortunately, the real Unfortunately, because the real name is Mandarin. There is no such thing as tangerine. That is just an American-made word because Americans want to call it differently. So Mandarin, as we see them here, from still attached to a branch from the tree. Sometimes you might find them for sale like that. And there's the fruit, and here's the inside. So mandarins have a preference because they're very easy to peel. Some of them can be quite sweet, and there could also be a lot of juice. So here's some of the smaller, and as we have moved in time, we have selected many of the mandarins, tangerines, mandarins to be kind of small, and that's so that the American public can put them in the lunch boxes for their children, or children don't want to eat a lot of fruit, so having a big normal size mandarin is too much for them. So that's why there's a selection for these cutesy small mandarins that you can just pack them into the lunches and send them out for the children. So that's this one right here, which is kind of small. And here's just a different one. This is Gold Nugget. And it's also very, very nice and very good. And Cuties has done a very good work job in marketing some of these mandarins. And you might see the cutie signs everywhere. And yeah, children are going to see them and they might consider eating it because it's kind of cutesy and it's kind of nice. But yeah, cutie mandarins, they are also very sweet. And then a few other hybrids. Here's the Tangelo. So it's a hybrid between a mandarin, a pomelo, and a different grapefruit. So that has got us the Tangelo, which is often available for sale. And there is a very famous, very popular citrus that was developed in Japan. And for many years, it was very difficult or impossible to get it in America until eventually a company was able to take some trees from Japan and decided to grow them here in California. And then the brand Sumo came up. So if you see him, this is going to be probably the best mandarin or the best citrus that you can eat. If you ever get a chance, do so. Luckily for us, now they are becoming much more popular and now the price has gone way down. But when they were first introduced, it was a very, very expensive fruit. And so here is the fruit, easy to peel, seedless, but it has a very nice flavor. Here's just some citrus tree being grown out in the city as a parkway trees. Here are some citrus, some lemons being grown in containers. They don't mind, they can grow in containers. And here is just some candy citrus or candy fruit as you would find it in a supermarket. This one being in Spain, because obviously it does have a Spanish and Europeans and nations have a longer history of eating citrus than the people from America. And then we have a few others that are going to be very popular for flavoring. So this is the citrus leaf that it is added to different soups and different dishes. And so it provides that citrus flavor to some of the dishes, and that's why it is used. And it's often available in the markets for people to use. And or we also have the sour orange, which it can be used more as a flavoring because it's going to be way too sour to eat. We have some of the flavoring that is used in some of the vitamins for children, or we have here the vitamin C. So yes, vitamin C is very high in many of the citrus fruits, and it was very important, or it is very important for people to eat vitamin C. And that was discovered when the sailors would spend several months on a boat and they were deprived of eating or having regular vitamin C, which brought about the development of scurvy. Now, many wise, smart people started drinking green tea as a way of getting some vitamin C. But later on, they found that by eating citrus, you would get the vitamin C and prevent scurvy. And then citrus was a common thing that you would find on any of the voyages. That would be for several months to prevent that from happening. So vitamin C or the acid that you have inside the fruit can also be used for preserving things or for other products. So it is a very popular thing to use. Uh, so here we have another one, Citrus japonica. This is the kumquat. And the kumquat is going to be known for having the sugar or the sweetness in the rind. So the juice is going to be very sour. So some people like the juice, the sourness of the juice, followed by the sweetness of the pulp. I personally squeeze out the juice and just eat the pulp with the rind, and that's good enough for me. But here's a parrot. If you cannot see it, it's right here. That happens to be enjoying some of these kumquats. It's not eating the fruit, it is taking out the seeds that are inside. So yes, animals are going to be one of the main dispersal for the citrus seeds, and including us humans. Uh, and here's another hybrid, Citrus fortunella micrantha. This is the calamansi, or they call it Filipino lime. It had its origins, or somebody in the Philippines developed, and now it has become the citrus of preference for the Filipino community. And so you can eat the rind. It's a little bit sour, tart, and there's a little bit of sweetness, but it's a very nice citrus if you have not had a chance to try it. It's good in soups or just for almost anything. And then we have the fruit fly. So California has an industry of growing citrus, and yes, the fruit flies can pose a serious danger. The fruit flies will lay their eggs inside the citrus, and as the maggots grow and develop, they will devour the fruit. And you don't want to bite or cut an orange and have a lot of maggots coming from inside. And so the Department of Agriculture is actively searching for mature fruit flies, especially if there would be females that might have eggs. So it is very common to see some of those green traps set along the trees just so that the Department of Agriculture can monitor and ensure that there's no fruit flies that would become established in our area to prevent the destruction of the industry by having fruit flies. Or we'll be preventing a lot of spraying from malathion or some other chemical. So be careful with the fruit flies. If they find fruit flies, the fruits may be quarantined, which means that you can eat them, but you cannot move them out of your local area. And then we also have the citrus leaf miner as another potential problem that was introduced several years ago. It distorts the leaves, it distorts the photosynthetic process. And so this is definitely something that you need to keep an eye out for. And the most recent one, which is the citrus greening, that has already devastated some of the citrus industry in Florida and in Brazil. It's now here in California, and although it is somewhat under control, it's still out there, and it's still posing a very serious danger to the citrus industry here in California. So citrus greening, a virus disease that distorts the fruit and prevents them from developing any of the compartments with the juice, and so it's not good for juicing. And it was introduced on a camellia that was brought over from China into El Monte, Southern California, and from there it spread and it's spreading. So here's the citrus leaf miner. So it's just an aesthetic problem. Yes, it will distort the leaves, and so there's an insect that is kind of living and growing and feeding in between the leaf. And that's what we're seeing the damage. And the damage can also be seen on the fruit itself. And When if we now jump over into some of the ornamentals, these are the ones from Australia, including the genus Korea, which is going to be known as Australian fuchsias. So here we have a very interesting member of this family. And when we see the flower, it looks a little bit different because of the pollination biology. This Australian fuchsias are pollinated by birds, so now they have acquired a very long trumpet shape. But when we look at the different features, it's kind of still remains the same. So we have now some of the sepals in the back that are fused. We have fusion of the petals creating the trumpet, and outside or coming out, you have the anthers, so the filament or the stamens, and inside, here's the inside. You have one stigma that's going to lead to the ovary, and so here's the stigma, and there's the ovary right there. And the fruit is no longer a juicy citrus as we know it. It is now a kind of like a dry capsule, as we saw with the rue or the real rue. So I mentioned the pollination, obviously not my photograph, but here are some of the birds with a very long beak that will be able to collect the nectar from the base of the flowers, and that's whom is going to bring about pollination in the wild. So that's why the petals have fused and elongated just to keep any unwanted pollinators away. So here's just a few others. Uh, Australian fuchsias, this one being white. And you can see that. And these photographs are from UC Santa Cruz Botanic Garden, where I had a chance to see some of the plants that you would find in southwestern Australia. And so that is a great place to see many of these species of Australian fuchsias and some of the hybrids that might be out there as well. So all these are related to the citrus. And then from Australia as well, we have the genus Crowea. So here's the flowers. Now these are no longer trumpet in shape. So we have the petals and the sepals and the stamens, everything right there now becomes an ornamental. And so here's a very nice shrub. They merit a lot more attention. Sometimes you might find them around, sometimes you don't. And here's the one that's been sold by Shark Bay. And then Boronia here are different genus from Australia with very nice, almost bell-shaped flowers. And or Phylotica, this is going to be known as Mexican lime, or this one is from South America. I don't know. This is from Australia, and or Diplolina, very unusual. This one has flowers in clusters, and here's the face of that flower, and another face. And then kind of very weird Corylana, so Carrie Oak, another member of this family. It's grown out here, but I have yet to see it in any other nurseries been offered for sale. So this is more from a botanic garden. Or from South Africa, we have Calodendron, which is the Cape chestnut. So here's a very large tree, and here's one of the oldest one planted by Dodger Stadium, and you can see it in full flower. And here's very nice and very ornate flowers. And those will be followed by the dry capsule or the dry fruit that inside you have a lot of seeds or big seeds. Or Coleonema, breath of heaven. Here's some of the flowers for that plant, which is very common ornamental plant here in Southern California, and including the fruit, the dry capsule. From Australia, we have Australian willow, genus Jaegera, with the flowers being pollinated there by a fly. And here's the flowers for that. Choisya ternata, which is from South America. This is from Mexico. So here's the flowers. Does not have a edible fruit, but it does have a very nice fragrant flower. And so here's the flowers that look kind of like a citrus. Or Muraya, which is going to be orange jasmine as a common name. here being used as an ornamental plant. And here's the cluster of flowers that kind of look like a citrus, also very fragrant, and that's where the name jasmine come from, because it's kind of has a fragrance very similar to jasmine, but it's related to the citrus. And so here's the different views of the flowers. And the fruit, which you can still see, looks like a mini citrus with those oil piths on the rind. Or the curry leaf, which is a plant that we started to see a lot more here in Southern California. So it is used for cooking, Muraya Koenigi. And so here's the flowers for that plant, and followed by some of the fruits, which still follows the same pattern as the other citrus. And it's also sold in the markets. So here's the leaves that you can also use them for cooking. And then Xanthosylum, which is known as Sichuan pepper, so one of the oldest spice or very old spice. So here's the only tree that I know here in Long Beach, Southern California, with the leaves and the flowers. Those will be followed by very tiny fruit that look like a very small lime. And inside we have a little bit of the rind, we have some seeds, and it is this that gets ground up and made into a spice and used for flavoring food. And you can purchase those from the stores if you happen to go into the aisle that has the spices. So Sichuan pepper, and there's a couple of other names. And or from South America, we also have the white zapote. Now, white zapote is not related to the true zapote. It is a citrus or citrus-like plant. So here's a very large tree. And from Rancho Los Cerritos, there's some located in their orchard. So there's the leaves and there's the flowers. The petals are kind of greenish in color. And there's the fruit. The fruit, which becomes kind of yellowish golden color. And inside, it's not juicy like a citrus, but it has a lot of pulp, kind of like a custard, kind of soft. And it's highly prized by many people. There's also many large seeds. As you can see right there, that is a very large seed that you can plant and you can grow your own tree. Or Wampi, which is another unusual fruit that you may find around here. Some of the members of the California Red Fruit Growers, groups of amateur growers here in Southern California will grow it, or Western United States. And so this one came, or the photographs came from Fullerton Arboretum, where they have a very nice tree. So I was able to photograph and or photograph the flowers as well, and some of the fruits as they have matured. And there's the fruit for scale. And some weird, unusual one, Traspasia trifoliata. Here's the trifoliata, or the three leaves, and the very tiny citrus that you might find there. And just overlooking a balcony with a nice container and a citrus plant. Or here's two more small citrus growing in a container in some of the landscapes. Or they're not picky, even a trash bin is good enough to grow a citrus. Here is some of the orchards as you would find. These photographs came from Florida. So Florida has depended on citrus for many years. Here's some of the oranges as they are being delivered to some of the packing houses where they may get clean or made into juice. And here's close up of some of those. And that's how we get an assortment of many citrus that you can sample, you can enjoy different colors, different sweetness, and enjoy your lemonade, because the citrus has gone through a very long journey to be in your cup so that you can enjoy it. So with this, I will end for today. Have a great day.